I have a question about my grandmother and how it affects my mother. My grandparents live down in San Antonio, and she's in the healthcare unit, so she kind of fades in and out. I went with my mom and visited her in February. So I thought it was pretty cool because she'd come back and talk about her sisters, so I thought she was talking to her sisters on the other side. But then what my mother's doing is she's not dealing with it very well. She's now blind, and she was supposed to go down and visit her in the spring, and she broke her foot. And then she was supposed to go in the fall. She broke her shoulder. So now she's supposed to go again. And now she's got this back problem. So I'm like, I want my grandmother to do her transition, but I'm not sure what it's going to do to my mother. So I want to help my mom because I always try to talk to her on the phone.
Well, your mother will actually do better in the time of transition, or once your grandmother has made her transition, than she will by going there and seeing her in this place that she does not want to see her. In other words, it is clear she does not like seeing your grandmother as she is, and that's why the universe keeps providing, through the crack of least resistance, excuses that keep her from having the experience that she might be having otherwise. Sometimes when you think you should do something that you don't want to do, you provide for yourself an excuse that is acceptable to others that keeps you from having to do the thing that you don't want to do. And so it is a benevolent universe that gives you a pain in the back.
Okay. So is there anything I can do to help my grandmother with her? Because my grandfather's setting it all up for when he goes, that my mom can take care of her, and that's freaking out my mother. So when I was down there in February, I talked to my grandmother, in my head when I was sitting next to her, about, it was okay to go and all that stuff. But
well, here's the thing that we would like to give you that will give you some ease. We think this is your path of least resistance. When the timing is perfect, your grandmother will make her transition. And there are many factors involved in that, mostly about her, but some about your mother. And you just don't need to figure it all out. You couldn't orchestrate it or even understand it if you tried. It is so much easier just to say that broader minds that know the full picture are offering orchestration. And then your work is, as you were attempting it, your work is to be a soother in the situation. So rather than trying to figure it out, the path of least resistance for you is things like, and for each of them that you're speaking to, you may offer a little different vocabulary depending upon what they might be resistant to or allowing. But you might say, I know that there is a bigger plan in all of this, and I know that we are not the orchestrators of the specifics of that at this point. In other words, it's not my job to decide when grandmother makes her transition, nor is it your job, mother, you want to say. We don't need to worry about all of this. We know that your mother is in the place that so many people are, where she is feeling uncomfortable about death. And the thing that is so interesting about this subject of death is the terrible predicament that so many of you have yourselves in, because you absolutely dread and fear what you know to be inevitable. So when someone is upon the brink of that, or anywhere near it, you tend to have activated within yourself your own vibration relative to the subject. Most people are not very resolved about death, and we don't think that we could give you any sort of a crash course or any words that you could offer to your grandmother or to your grandfather or to your mother that would do any major or big-time soothing of something that they've been carrying around for a very long time. In other words, the mass consciousness is bent out of shape about the subject of death, and you can't turn that around in a moment, but you can, little by little, thought by thought, experience by experience, take the path of least resistance, or the path of most allowance. So we would ask you, what value is it to you to fret about your mother's fretting about her mother?
Well, it seems like I get in trouble with other family members when I don't get involved.
So give us an example. That's where we want to start here, taking this path of least resistance. So how does the trouble appear?
Well, my sister will say, don't you think Grandma looks terrible? Doesn't Papa look horrible?
All right, so you hear that, and then you think, now, I can't win here. Because
Right.
if I say, oh yeah, they look horrible, then she's just going to talk more about that. And we're going to go down that road, which will feel worse. And if I say, no, I think they look great, then she's just going to defend her position, so I'm not going to win. So what is my possible path of least resistance?
Not talk to her.
Well, maybe, but that might get you in more trouble. In other words, now they're talking about you not talking. So let's say that that's not an option. You've already decided. And so then you say, well, what are my options here? I could change the subject, which sometimes works. I could turn it toward her, which often works. I could say, our grandparents are lucky that they have so many of us that care about them. And you could turn it to her. And I often feel appreciation about how much you care. And in other words, as you diffuse it a little bit at a time, you'll get very good at this. You can change the subject gently. Now, sometimes you change the subject and it feels a little better and someone drags it right back. And you change the subject and it feels a little better and someone drags it right back. And if you keep changing and they drag it back, then that becomes a sort of tug of war that becomes pretty obvious. So then you say, the path of least resistance might be cutting this visit short or cutting this telephone conversation short. And then you're not having the conversation anymore, and now you're in your own head. Well, in your own head, it is easier to choose the path of least resistance than it is when you're in the middle of a conversation, but you often don't. In other words, you often play it out in your head just as if you were sitting there, even though you could go the other way. So here's what we're saying to you. If when you are now not talking to her, but you are playing it out in your head, you are taking a path of least resistance, now what's happening is you begin to conjure within yourself, activate within yourself, a vibration that's different on this subject than where she usually is, which makes you not as likely by law of attraction to rendezvous with her again. In other words, she will become less and less able to talk to you about those things as you diverge into paths of less and less resistance. The reason that she's able to keep drawing you in there is because she draws you in, you vibrate there, and then when you're not with her, you practice being there with her so that you're right there ready to be with her, you see. So sometimes you worry, well, what if I get in this good feeling place where I'm just not really a vibrational match to all the trauma that's going on with them? Won't they hate me? And we say, maybe they will, but that's their issue of resistance. And you say, but what if I worry about them hating me? And we say, now that's your issue of resistance, and that's something that you can do something about. You can remember them loving you, you can imagine them hating you, you can superimpose anything over them that you want. We would choose the path of least resistance. We would start giving them the benefit of the doubt. Your grandparents look different in person than they do in a picture because in person you are able to read the true vibrational nature of their being. And the photograph just can't capture that. In other words, there is so much more to a person than the still snapshot in that moment in time. They are so much more than all of that. But you can't teach that to your sister with anything less than 3 or 4 years of Abraham tapes, and you don't have time for that now, you see. So just let her be wherever she wants to be while you keep choosing thoughts that feel better to you. You don't have to turn this around. You're not going to change the way the world views death. You're not going to keep your grandmother from dying. You're not going to even ease your mother's pain too much when she does die. In other words, these are all things that are out of your hands. But you can ease your own resistance relative to all of these subjects, and that is your work. And as you do that, your connection to Source will be a catalyst that will assist others in connecting to Source if they so choose that, you see. We never hear you say, I've been well for so long, I think I will be sick for a while, so others who have been sick can be well. That's silly. You don't associate using up the wellness so somebody else can't. And yet, there seems to be a sort of screwy thing that goes on within so many of you, where you do feel guilty about feeling joy when someone you love is not in a place of joy. And we say, we don't know where you got the idea that if you join them in their misery, they'll be more joyful. It never ever works, you see. And you say, well, I accept that. I know that if I join them in their misery, they're not going to be more joyful, but I feel guilty feeling joy. And we say, you just got to get over that. That's the reason that so much new infusion of pure positive energy is born into your environment. The old grouchy dead ones go out the top and the new connected little ones come in the bottom. Or maybe it's the other way around. You just continue the cycling of energy, and you can tap into that stream in any way that you want to, you see. Your grandmother is on the brink of the greatest relief that she has experienced in a very, very long time. And if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would begin celebrating it. And much of the time, she is already having some of that. In other words, that which you are all calling delusion is her tapping into that. In other words, she's already beginning to feel the freshness of all of that. She's not feeling any resistance to that. She can feel the inevitable inertia toward it. In other words, everything is unfolding perfectly, magically by human standards, perfectly by non-physical standards. Everything is right on track, right on schedule, unfolding perfectly. And if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would be sitting back and watching the delicious unfolding of this. And we would not allow ourselves to worry about one part of it. Your mother will survive. Not only will she survive, but she will feel much better afterward. The hardest part is now. It's getting better in every moment. It's time to lighten up and not make such big things about all of this. We watch you. You are so afraid of death. Jerry and Esther were in the area where the sniper was. They rode around in that area for days in their monster bus and in their tow car. In other words, they were zigging and zagging. They even went right down the road where they were finally discovered. And after the fact, Esther felt a little shocked about it as she realized that they'd sort of been right there in the area. In other words, almost everywhere the sniper was, they were there. And Esther said, Abraham, wasn't that a little close for comfort? And we said, you were never in danger. The well-being is a very powerful thing. And yet what happens to so many, your world, or at least that part of the world, was nearly paralyzed with their fear of death. And we say something's very wrong with that picture. You are so frightened of this thing that is inevitable, and you flash across your television screens the terror at even the idea of this thing that is the most delicious thing that any of you have ever imagined. In other words, you have no idea how good death is, or you would stop the death penalty right away. You'd say, how can we torture this guy? Let's keep him alive. Let's make him watch television. So you get the sense of what we are talking about. Death is not a bad thing. And we think that your grandmother, in her transition, can help you to come at one with this delicious, inevitable thing. And we promise you, none of you will ever really live until you are able to quell your fear of death. And none of you will ever be able to quell your fear of death until you are embracing the idea of life. None of you will ever embrace your idea of life unless you understand that there's no such thing as death. In other words, you've got to finally come to terms that you are eternal consciousness. You know that your grandmother is visiting with her sisters, so you know there is consciousness that is being experienced. And we say, it's time to stop nitpicking over whether we are physically focused or whether we are non-physically focused. It's time to stop making this inevitable thing called death the issue that it is that keeps you bound and afraid of the adventure that is life. And so if you get that, and we think you do. In other words, we think you feel that. And we don't think you should be ashamed of feeling that. We think that you should be excited about your knowledge of the eternal nature of your being. And we think that if you said to your mother or to your sisters or to any of them that are frowning around and that are suffering, we think if you said, hey, we need to get over this. We're all going to die. We need to get over this. Death is not a bad thing. We are eternal beings. Don't you believe in the angels? Don't you believe in God? Don't you believe in the eternal nature of that which we are? How can you be suffering when grandmother is on her way to this exaltation? What can be bad about that? In other words, speak your knowing. Do not run with your tail between your legs, afraid to know what you know. They're suffering in their not remembering of what you know. And you cannot teach them what you know without knowing it. And we think you know it. We wouldn't hit it too head on, but we certainly wouldn't pretend to know otherwise. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't pretend that we are suffering over the idea of death, when the idea of death is nothing to suffer about, you see.
I asked my mom one time, I asked her, why do you think Grandma's hanging around? And she actually went down there and asked her. And she's, my grandmother's afraid that her husband's cousin or something's going to come get silver. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, you're hanging around like that.
We think your grandmother is a very funny lady.
She is.
And
she is.
Think about it. If somebody said to you, why aren't you dead yet? And somebody said, "You look like you should be dead. We think that you should be dead. Why aren't you dead yet?" We think it is very clever of her to say, "Because I don't want Nellie to steal the silver."